A Different World looked like the perfect college comedy on TV, but behind the polished image was chaos. The show was born from failure, its cast clashed with producers, and its main star was forced out. At one point, it was so close to cancellation that nobody thought it would survive. What most fans never figured out is that Hillman College was hiding secrets stranger than fiction. From a scrapped version that was supposed to star a white student at an HBCU, to Tupac's behind-the-scenes jealousy, to storylines killed by network racism, even a future Superman once appeared as a racist villain. This is the untold truth of how a show on the verge of collapse became one of television's most groundbreaking legends. To understand how things unraveled, it helps to go back to the very beginning. At the time, The Cosby Show was the biggest program on television, a cultural phenomenon that completely reshaped TV. Riding that wave of success, the network decided to create a spin-off. The plan was simple. Follow the second oldest Huxtable daughter, Denise, as she headed off to college. That series became A Different World. But almost no one knows that the original concept for the show was entirely different. In fact, Denise Huxtable wasn't supposed to be in it at all. The first idea centered on a white student attending a historically black college, or HBCU. The creators thought that angle would allow them to explore race and culture in a fresh way, and they even considered a young Meg Ryan, years before she became a movie star, for the lead role. As the idea evolved, the focus shifted to Denise, but the producers kept part of the original concept by giving her a white roommate. That role went to Marisa Tomei, who would later go on to win an Academy Award. Even with a star from The Cosby Show to anchor it, the production was in chaos from the start. The first pilot was so bad it had to be scrapped, and 4 more episodes were filmed and then thrown out. A new producer was eventually brought in and handed just 6 weeks to rebuild the show before its premiere date. A frantic, last-minute rescue attempt. When A Different World finally debuted in 1987, it was an instant rating success. With the coveted time slot sandwiched between The Cosby Show and Cheers, 2 of the most popular shows in history, millions of viewers tuned in every week. But ratings weren't everything. While audiences were watching, critics were tearing it apart. Reviews were brutal, calling the show boring, childish, and little more than a weak imitation of its parent series. The first season ended up with an abysmal 11% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and one journalist even remarked that A Different World received one of the biggest waves of bad reviews ever for a hit show. The criticism wasn't just about the writing, it was about authenticity. The show was set at the fictional Hillman College, an HBCU in Virginia, but it didn't reflect what life at a black college was truly like. Critics pointed out that students were never shown studying, rarely went to class, and the world felt like a hollow backdrop instead of a real environment. So while A Different World looked like a hit on paper, behind the curtain it was collapsing, and the worst was still to come. A behind-the-scenes conflict with the show's biggest star was about to push the series to the breaking point. The centerpiece of A Different World was Lisa Bonet. She was stylish, charismatic, and the very reason the spin-off existed in the first place. But after the rocky first season wrapped, she made an announcement that changed everything. In the summer of 1988, Bonet and her husband, rising rock star Lenny Kravitz, revealed they were expecting their first child. For Debbie Allen, the acclaimed director and choreographer who had just been brought in to rescue the show, this seemed like a gift. Allen envisioned a storyline about a young college student navigating pregnancy. It was real, it was relevant, and it was exactly the kind of honesty she wanted to bring to Hillman College. Bill Cosby saw it differently. As creator of both The Cosby Show and A Different World, he refused to allow Denise Huxtable, a character carefully crafted as the wholesome good girl of the Huxtable family, to be portrayed as an unwed mother. He insisted that while Lisa Bonet could be pregnant, Denise Huxtable could not. This clash created a storm behind the scenes. On one side was Allen, pushing for realism and bold storytelling. On the other was Cosby, fiercely protecting the pristine image of his television family. And in the middle was Lisa Bonet, whose future with the series hung in the balance. Cosby ultimately got his way. Denise's pregnancy storyline never happened. Instead, Bonet was written out of the show entirely, with her exit explained by Denise dropping out of Hillman and moving back in with her family on The Cosby Show. What fans didn't realize was how tense the atmosphere had become on set, a conflict that nearly derailed the series before Debbie Allen's vision could fully take hold. Years later, Jasmine Guy, who played the Southern Belle Whitley Gilbert, revealed just how hostile things had become for Lisa Bonet behind the scenes. According to Jasmine, producers didn't just pressure Lisa, they humiliated her. In front of the live studio audience, they would get in her face, point their fingers, and bark at her to just say the lines. The atmosphere grew so toxic that Jasmine felt she couldn't stand by and watch. Out of loyalty, she tried to quit the show altogether. She walked into the producer's office, handed in her 2-week notice, and told them she didn't like how the cast was being treated. When they asked if it had happened to her personally, she refused to back down. "If it happens to her, it happens to me," she told them. "You are disrespecting the cast. You are disrespecting Sinbad. It doesn't have to happen to me. I felt like it was happening to me." It was a bold stand, but the damage had already been done. With Lisa Bonet gone and the show's reputation in tatters, a different world was on the verge of cancellation. Then came a turning point. A new creative force stepped in, armed with a vision bold enough to transform a failing project into a television landmark: Debbie Allen. Allen, fresh off her success as a director and choreographer, understood Hillman College in a way the original team didn't. As a graduate of Howard University, a real HBCU, she knew exactly how to make the world authentic. She started by reshaping everything. The pit, the campus hangout, was redesigned to feel more like a real college cafe, complete with a visible kitchen and staff. She scrapped the generic cheerleader-style costumes from Season 1 and introduced clothing that better reflected actual student fashion. And to inject energy and discipline into the production, she even made the cast start their days with morning workouts, sit-ups, stretches, and all. Debbie Allen wasn't just fixing a show, she was rebuilding it from the ground up. With Lisa Bonet gone, Debbie Allen realized the show couldn't revolve around a single star anymore. She reimagined a different world as a true ensemble series, shifting the spotlight to the entire student body at Hillman. 2 characters who had been supporting players in the first season, the spoiled but charming Whitley Gilbert and the nerdy math whiz Dwayne Wayne, were moved to the center. That choice would eventually give television one of its most iconic and beloved couples. To ground the stories in authenticity, Debbie introduced a practice that was unheard of at the time. Every year, she took the writing staff on field trips to Atlanta, where they visited real HBCUs like Spelman and Morehouse. They walked the campuses, studied dorm life and fashion trends, and most importantly, spoke directly with students and faculty. Many of the show's most memorable episodes were inspired by the stories they brought back from those trips. Debbie also gave her actors a rare level of creative power. She asked each cast member to submit 10 storylines they wanted to see for their characters, and then passed those ideas straight into the writer's room. Several of them made it onto the screen. For the first time, the cast felt like true collaborators in the storytelling. Most of all, Debbie Allen made the show fearless. Where The Cosby Show avoided controversy, A Different World tackled it head-on. Under her direction, Hillman's students confronted apartheid in South Africa, date rape, domestic violence, and the growing HIV/AIDS epidemic. The sitcom stopped being just entertainment. It became a cultural conversation, off-screen love, and hidden relationships. And while the stories on screen grew braver, the lives of the cast off-screen were becoming just as dramatic, filled with secret romances and behind-the-scenes relationships that most fans never knew existed. Off-screen, the cast of A Different World had their own tangled romances and hidden connections. The chemistry between the Hillman students felt so real, especially the back and forth between Dwayne and Whitley, that fans assumed it was just great acting. But behind the scenes, real emotions were at play. The biggest secret was the long-term relationship between Kadeem Hardison, who played Dwayne Wayne, and Cree Summer, who portrayed the free-spirited Freddie Brooks. While audiences were hooked on Dwayne and Whitley's romance, the real love story was between Kadeem and Cree. The two were inseparable, best friends first, bonding over motorcycles and comic books. Their friendship quietly shifted into something more. One day, while out riding, Cree pulled her bike over and simply told him, "I love you. I think I'm in love with you." At first, Kadeem was stunned, but then it clicked. His best friend was also the person he wanted to be with. From 1989 to 1992, at the height of the show's success, they were a couple. In later years, Cree would describe Kadeem as the blueprint for a first love, kind, generous, and funny as hell. Their breakup, which happened before the series ended, was difficult. They still had to work together on set every day, yet somehow they managed to stay close. In fact, if you watch the Season 5 opening credits closely, you can even spot the two sneaking in a quick kiss, a subtle reminder of the love that had once been very real. The romantic web behind the scenes of A Different World was more complicated than most fans ever realized. Before Kadeem Hardison and Cree Summer became a couple, Kadeem actually had a crush on another co-star, Jasmine Guy. The two had first crossed paths while working on Spike Lee's School Days. At the time, Kadeem was just 20, Jasmine was 24, and she thought he was simply too young for her. Still, Kadeem was so taken with her that at a party, he quietly asked the DJ to replay a slow song just so he could keep dancing with her a little longer. But that wasn't the only real-life romance to grow out of the Hillman set. Daryl M. Bell, who played Dwayne's best friend Ron Johnson, first met actress Tempesty Bledsoe in 1989 when she guest-starred on the show. Tempest was already well known as Vanessa Huxtable from The Cosby Show. A few years after that meeting, the two began dating, and unlike many Hollywood relationships, theirs lasted. More than 30 years later, they remain happily together. Though they never married, they built a life full of love and stability away from the cameras. Even with all the off-screen romance, it was the drama on-screen that was about to take center stage. The cast was about to film the most iconic moment in the show's history, and behind the scenes, not everyone believed it would work. Iconic moments and secret battles. The cast of A Different World had undeniable chemistry, but that didn't mean they always agreed with the writers. In fact, when the script for the most famous moment in the show's history landed in their hands, both Kadeem Hardison and Jasmine Guy thought it was a terrible idea. Every fan remembers it. Dwayne Wayne interrupting Whitley Gilbert's wedding, standing up in front of everyone and begging her not to go through with it. Today it's considered one of television's greatest scenes, but at the time, the actors hated it. Jasmine thought the whole thing was corny, while Kadeem felt it made his character look like a snake in the grass, betraying his friend by crashing the wedding. He even pitched an alternative ending, suggesting Dwayne confess his love the night before instead. The writers, however, refused to budge. On the day of filming, Kadeem was so nervous that when he finally ran down the aisle, he completely forgot his lines. What came out instead was raw and unrehearsed. "Baby, please, please." Jasmine, standing at the altar, knew she had to react, and the emotion in that unscripted moment turned what the actors thought would flop into one of TV's most unforgettable scenes. But that wasn't the only battle happening behind the scenes. In 1991, Debbie Allen pushed to tackle the HIV/AIDS crisis in an episode, a subject no other sitcom dared touch. Sponsors panicked, pulling their ads and pressuring the network to drop the storyline. To save it, Debbie called in her friend Whoopi Goldberg, who agreed without hesitation to guest star. Her presence gave the network the confidence to move forward. The episode, If I Should Die Before I Wake, aired to record ratings. More importantly, it educated millions at a time when misinformation and fear were everywhere. Debbie Allen later said that Whoopi's courage helped save lives by opening up a national conversation that television had avoided for too long. Weird facts about a different world you never knew. Fact 1. A Different World wasn't supposed to be about Denise Huxtable at all. The original concept centered on a white student attending a historically black college. Producers even considered casting future star Meg Ryan in the lead role, and legendary singer Lena Horne was approached to play an acting teacher. But the more they developed the idea, the more they realized it would turn into a show about white discomfort rather than black achievement. So the concept shifted. Instead of following a white student, the show was built around Lisa Bonet's Denise Huxtable heading off to Hillman College. A white roommate remained in the story, played by Marisa Tomei, but now in a supporting role. That change was crucial. It allowed the show to focus on black college life, social issues, and stories that inspired an entire generation to pursue HBCUs. Fact 2. Meg Ryan almost became a star on the show. Before Marisa Tomei joined the cast, Ryan was the first choice to play Maggie, Denise's roommate. Producers loved her audition and thought her charm would be the perfect counterbalance to Lisa Bonet. But Ryan's agents pushed her away from television, urging her to focus on film instead. That choice paid off. Ryan went on to become the queen of romantic comedies with movies like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. Tomei stepped into the role, though her character was later written out when the show was retooled. Fact 3. Executive racism killed Marisa Tomei's storyline. When Debbie Allen took over in Season 2, she wanted Maggie to date Kadeem Hardison's character, Dwayne Wayne. Her idea was bold, an interracial romance on primetime television, complete with a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner style episode. But NBC executives flatly refused. They didn't want a black man and a white woman together on screen. Instead of approving Allen's storylines, they quietly removed Tomei from the series altogether. Allen later revealed the truth in a 2006 interview, exposing how racism behind the scenes derailed what could have been groundbreaking storytelling. Fact 4. Lisa Bonet and Marisa Tomei were real-life roommates. On screen, Denise and Maggie shared a dorm room. Off-screen, Lisa and Marisa actually lived together during filming, and their friendship lasted far beyond the show. Tomei became godmother to all 3 of Bonet's children, including Zoe Kravitz, and was even present at 2 of their births. What began as a short-lived on-screen pairing turned into a lifelong bond. Fact 5. The pilot made television history. When A Different World premiered on September 24, 1987, it didn't just succeed, it shattered records. The pilot became the highest rated in American TV history at the time, thanks to its placement right after The Cosby Show on Thursday nights. Audiences were eager to follow Denise Huxtable to college, and the ratings proved it. Ironically, even with such a record-breaking debut, the series underwent major changes after Season 1, changes that transformed it into the cultural landmark fans remember today. Fact 6. Al Green almost sang the theme song. Before A Different World became forever linked with Aretha Franklin's unforgettable voice, producers had another soul legend in mind, Al Green. Fresh off timeless hits like Let's Stay Together and Love and Happiness, Green was actually the first major artist approached to perform the opening theme. His smooth, romantic tone and gospel touch would have given the show a very different musical identity, shaping how audiences connected with Hillman College from the very first note. The theme itself, written by Dawn Lewis, who played Jaleesa, and composer Stu Gardner, spoke about growth, change, and finding one's place in the world, the perfect anthem for students navigating college life. Having Al Green sing it would have been powerful, but for reasons never fully explained, Whether scheduling, creative disagreements, or contract issues, the collaboration never happened. Instead, Season 1 featured Phoebe Snow's folk jazz rendition. But when Debbie Allen took over in Season 2, she called on her friend, the Queen of Soul herself. Aretha Franklin's powerhouse version ran for Seasons 2 through 5, cementing itself as the definitive A Different World theme. It's hard to imagine the show without her voice, but fans still wonder how different the legacy might feel had Al Green opened the door to Hillman College each week. Fact 7. Debbie Allen changed contracts forever. Debbie Allen didn't just save A Different World creatively, she changed the way actors could build their careers. Starting in the 3rd season, she pushed NBC to add groundbreaking clauses into cast contracts, guaranteeing them opportunities to write and direct episodes. This was virtually unheard of at the time, especially for black actors, who were often shut out of behind-the-camera roles. Allen's philosophy was simple. The more you do, the less they can tell you that you can't do. She wanted her cast to leave the show not only as performers, but as storytellers with real creative power. And it worked. Kadeem Hardison directed multiple episodes, including the one featuring Tupac Shakur. Jasmine Guy also directed and co-wrote episodes, building skills that carried into the rest of her career. At a time when most actors had little say in the creative process, Allen's insistence created a blueprint for empowerment. By giving her cast the tools to grow as writers, directors, and producers, she ensured that A Different World would not just change television on screen, but behind the scenes as well. Fact 8. Dwayne Wayne's glasses inspired the flip phone. Dwayne Wayne's trademark flip-up glasses weren't just a fashion statement, they later became part of a surprising piece of TV lore. In a reunion special, writers revealed a fictional backstory that credited Dwayne with inventing the flip phone after he and Whitley moved to Japan at the end of the series. According to that storyline, his engineering job at Kinisewa Electronics, combined with years of wearing those famous glasses, inspired him to design a phone that folded in half. It was a clever way to connect one of television's most recognizable props to one of the biggest tech innovations of the 1990s and 2000s. Motorola and other companies would go on to sell millions of flip phones, but for fans, the idea that Hillman's math whiz played a part in their creation was too perfect to ignore. Even today, Dwayne Wayne glasses are still sold as retro accessories, a reminder of how iconic that look really was. Fact 9. Tupac made Kadeem Hardison jealous. When Tupac Shakur guest-starred in 1993 playing Piccolo, Lena's old boyfriend, his raw performance stunned everyone on set, including Kadeem Hardison himself. In a later interview, Hardison admitted that he felt jealous of Tupac's natural talent. Despite years of experience as Dwayne Wayne, he was floored by how effortlessly the rapper tapped into emotional depth. Hardison put it bluntly, "I was jealous of him as an actor because I thought he had such range. He could touch places I didn't know if I could go." What impressed him even more was the chemistry between Tupac and Jada Pinkett Smith, who had been close friends since high school. Their connection made every scene feel authentic and alive, to the point where directors barely needed to give them notes. For Hardison, it was like watching magic unfold. Fact 10. NBC censored Tupac and Jada's scenes. As powerful as Tupac's guest appearance was, most fans never saw the full version when it first aired. NBC quietly cut several lines of dialogue between Piccolo and Lena, deciding they were too explicit for a Thursday night sitcom slot. In one scene, Piccolo bluntly referenced his past intimacy with Lena, material that executives felt pushed too far for a family audience. Those cuts meant viewers originally missed some of the context that explained Piccolo's possessive attitude and his tension with other characters. Decades later, streaming versions on Netflix restored the missing lines, allowing audiences to see Tupac's performance as it was meant to be. The uncut scenes revealed a more complex character, less of a one-note troublemaker and more of a flawed ex-lover whose history with Lena gave his appearance at Hillman real emotional weight. Where are the cast now? The cast of A Different World fought to make the series more than just a sitcom. It became a show with purpose and meaning. But life after Hillman College brought them their own mix of triumphs, challenges, and battles most fans never knew about. Sinbad, who played the warm-hearted Walter Oakes, left after season 4 and became a household name in stand-up comedy and films like House Guest and Jingle All the Way. But in 2020, at age 64, his life changed dramatically when he suffered a massive ischemic stroke. The stroke left him unable to move the left side of his body. For 2 years, his family kept the struggle private as he endured grueling therapy. Today, Sinbad is slowly relearning how to walk, and in a heartfelt message to fans, he vowed he would not stop fighting until he could walk across a stage again. Daryl M. Bell, known as the smooth-talking Ron Johnson, faced struggles of a different kind. His father, Travers Bell Jr., made history as the founder of the first black-owned firm on the New York Stock Exchange. But when he passed away suddenly in 1988, a 24-year-old Daryl found himself executor of a $14 million estate, and in the middle of a painful, very public legal battle. Sued by his own stepmother and aunt, accused of mismanaging the fortune, Daryl endured years of turmoil before the case was dismissed. Dawn Lewis, who played the ambitious Jaleesa Vincent, was multi-talented but often undercut by industry politics. Though she co-wrote the show's iconic theme song, producers wouldn't let her sing it, believing it would give her too much spotlight. After 5 seasons, she left for a starring role on Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, only to be written out after 1 season when the show changed direction. Dawn has since spoken openly about the invisible ceiling black actresses face in Hollywood. Cree Summer, who brought Freddie Brooks to life, found her success in an unexpected place: her voice. After the show, she became one of the most prolific voice actors in history. While audiences might not have seen her face, they've heard her as Susie Carmichael in Rugrats, Elmira Duff in Tiny Toon Adventures, and Foxy Love in Drawn Together. With more than 100 characters to her name, Cree quietly built an empire. Meanwhile, Jasmine Guy and Kadeem Hardison continued long, steady careers. Jasmine became a respected actress, director, and activist, appearing in shows like The Vampire Diaries and Amazon's Harlem. Kadeem never stopped working either, starring alongside Zendaya in Disney's KC Undercover and appearing in acclaimed dramas like Black Monday and The Chi. The story of A Different World remains one of television's greatest comebacks. Born as a shaky spin-off that critics dismissed, it was reshaped under Debbie Allen into a cultural landmark that inspired countless black students to attend real-life HBCUs. Decades later, its lessons still resonate. Recently, the cast reunited for a sold-out HBCU tour, bringing Hillman College full circle for new generations of fans. The ultimate truth about A Different World is that the polished, inspiring show millions loved was built out of chaos, conflict, and courage. The struggles behind the scenes gave it the authenticity and unshakable heart that made it unforgettable. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when the next video drops. See you next time.